Howdy, it's Mr. Pete again, and this video is a little different than what I usually do. And I'm in my son-in-law's yard, and this old derelict trailer here that belongs to my grandson Jordan had been sitting here getting semi-remodeled for about 4 years already. And no, we didn't buy it from Randy Quaid, but here's the problem. We're getting it ready to take it down to Pontiac to the Thresherman's Fair, but it needs new tires. So they took the tires off this side and they came right, the lug nuts came right off. Actually, they're bolts, they're not lug nuts. And proceeded to go to the other side, and that is where the problem began. You understand that a genius like me was not here when they were doing this job. But now we're on the left-hand side of the trailer, and since it's in the shade and it's always wet here, we were assuming that the bolts were corroded on there because absolutely would not budge. And I supplied them with a breaker bar 3/4 inch drive and about a 3-foot piece of pipe, and he tugged away, and Jordan is strong. You've seen pictures of him. And he managed to snap off 2 of the bolts. So now we're really in a pickle, and this is what the bolts look like. And they got so discouraged, my son-in-law and Jordan, they just went home. Well, the next morning I came out with a fresh mind, and I sat here and I sat here, and then I got the wrench out. And matter of fact, I got the blue wrench out, and I heated one up pretty good and let it cool down a little bit, and I got the wrench out. I thought, you know, sometimes it helps to tighten a little bit before you loosen. So I turned it to the right, and, you know, right away it broke loose. So then I tried to turn it to the left, and no, nothing. Then it dawned on me. These are left-hand bolts, left-hand threads on the left-hand side, like my 51 Buick and many Chrysler products from the 50s and maybe even into the 60s. So that was the entire problem. These are left-hand threads, so we were tightening them. They were tightening them. Not me, of course. But now the dilemma is, how are we going to get those broken off bolts out of there, because they're hardened, you know. Probably a grade 8 or grade 5, I'm not sure. So again, nothing's getting done here, so I'm taking it upon myself. I'm going to take that. We wanted to check the electric brakes anyway, but I'm going to take that drum off. Got to take the bearing off. I won't show any of that. I'm going to take that drum into the garage and see what I can do with it. And I'd rather work alone on something like this. And if it is impossible for me, or I get too discouraged or too hot, you won't even see this video. It will be in the the digital trash can. So there they are. No problem here, but naturally they even broke off below the surface. This won't be easy or fun. So my original intention was to use an easy out. And then of course it dawned on me, we would need a right hand easy out. Easy outs are left-handed, that is to say, it's a left-hand helix, so it will grip. Is there such a thing as a right-hand screw extractor of any brand? Put it in the comments if you know anything about that. These are the tools that I'm thinking that I'm going to need. It'll be interesting if I need something else. Let's get started. I have a confession to make to you. I know nothing about electric brakes, so this is what I'm concerned with. So let's take it over into the shop. And by the way, did you see me using that cotter pin remover? It wasn't all that helpful either. You saw me struggle with it. I think I would have done just as well with the time-honored tools that I own. And all of the parts, the bearings are right there to keep clean, but of course they need to be re-greased, cleaned and re-greased, packed. Well, the real question is, am I having fun yet? Not. As you can readily see, they've broken off a little bit below the surface, and on the inside of the drum, can you see that? It's protruding perhaps 1/16 of an inch, but naturally there's no way to get any kind of vice grips or anything on that. But here's the irony of the whole thing. These lug bolts are clearly marked with an L. But of course those were all rusty, and you know, who was going to get down on his knees? But I know these buggers are going to be hard as a diamond. Well, I'm on the South Bend mill out in the garage, Studio G, and I've got the drum clamped down, as you can see, and that's a carbide cutter in there. I've already tried to tap that broken off bolt with a sharp instrument, you know, both one way and the other. It would not budge. Now remember that this is not a blind hole, so the idea here is I want to flatten off the top of the bolt that's broken and then attempt to drill through it with a carbide drill. Let's see what happens. This isn't going to be easy. You know, a hardened bolt never snaps off nice and flat, so that's the purpose of trying to mill this with the carbide cutter, but I'm already down, over 1/8 of an inch into that hole, so I'll see what happens. I am not optimistic. I am too old to be optimistic. Too many things have happened. Well, that cut like butter with the carbide cutter, and the bottom of the hole, or should I say the top of the broken off bolt, is smooth and flat as a baby's butt. Now I'm going to go over and do the other one before, and I won't show that, before I change to a carbide drill bit. This is the carbide cutter I just used to flatten the bolts, and this is the carbide drill. I don't even know what size it is, but I'm just hoping to use this along with this and get the darn things out. It'll be a miracle. Pray for me. Well, I went all the way through. What do you think? You know, these easy out screw extractors are, what would we call it, left-hand twist? But I don't really care here whether it goes out the bottom or out the top. So I think these will work if I can get it to budge. Now, this one's too small. Why am I telling you this? This one's too large. So let's put this one in and hit it with a hammer, because the idea is I want it to drive in there and bite. And now a drum roll will be absolutely necessary. I feel it biting in, but it's not moving. I've been working at this for about 45 minutes, and yeah, you're right. And boy, look at that sharp piece right there. So I've given up. To me, it's impossible. We never would drill that out, nor would anybody else. So anyway, the point being, I think we're going to have to scrap this and try to find a new drum at a salvage yard or something of that nature. So I gave it my best effort, which wasn't good enough. Although I am incredibly discouraged, I cooled down and calmed down a little bit, and I'm going to go with plan C or D or whatever it is. But first of all, let me talk a little bit more about the broke. I never did have much luck with these, and there's really nothing wrong with them other than when a bolt is stuck or rusted or anything, it's just a real problem. So what I had done there, I got my son-in-law over, he just lives next door, and I switched from this tap wrench to the larger tap wrench, and there's the broken off easy out. And by the way, I was able to get the broken part out because I just pounded it from the back side, because it was a it was not a blind hole. But anyway, in order to break this, I used 2 of these. Am I in the frame? Like that. And I'm scared to death of shards of hardened steel. I know what it can do. But look at how long that thing is now. And so my son-in-law and I worked together, and I said, face the other direction, so we wouldn't even look at it. But look, we've got about 36 inches here of leverage, and that's why it finally broke, and I wasn't surprised. But it's hard to tell whether there's digging in or the screw is starting to yield and turn a little bit, but it didn't. So on with the next plan, and I'll tell you what that is. So I got to thinking, why are they using a left-hand thread anyway? Is that a carryover from old wagons and the farm implements and everything like that? Because I don't see the need. Most companies got away from that in the 50s. But on this one, I decided what we're going to do is to change the thread size to a right hand, and it'll be a 9/16 12. So I've got hardened bolts. I just bought at Ace Hardware, and I'm going to drill this hole out 31/64, I believe it is, and tap it 9/16 12. Is that what I just said? 9/16 12, not 5/8. 5/8 would be too big of a bolt, and then we couldn't get it through the holes in the rim, the wheel. So I hope this works, and I'm going to have to make some special washers or spacers that give me the taper. I should take that out and show you. Well, I'll show you that later, or I may not show that. But right now, I'm going to line everything up, re-drill, and tap 9/16. Okay, this is a 31/64, and it won't take much to drill this out. Now I had about 10 9/16 course taps, and every one of them is a plug tap. I could not find a taper tap. I don't think I've ever tapped the 9/16 in my whole life, but I'm using the pressure point here, the spring-loaded center, and you know, this is cast iron, so I think it'll turn pretty easily. I'm not going to use any lubricant on cast iron, so let's see if this works, and I want to go all the way through. This is not a blind hole. And let's see how that works. Awesome. Okay, that is the fix, I hope. So I have another broken off stud over here, and it'll be the same as this one, that I have to drill it out because it's hardened with these carbide bits. Where are they? Someplace right here. And then tap that hole. I'm not sure if I showed this in the first part of the video, but this is about a 5/16 solid carbide drill. And I'm running at slow speed. I probably could run it a lot faster, but I'm not in the mood for changing speeds, is what it is. Well, this has been nothing but a nightmare. It's an hour later, and would you believe that I broke off the carbide drill from drilling from the other side? So that's why the drum is reversed now. And using another carbide drill, I'm glad I didn't try to film all this. And here it is. That's a larger one. I drilled from the back side, and apparently, not apparently, this drill broke off just as it started. Well, it didn't quite break through. So I only had to drill, what, 1/8 of an inch or something with this larger carbide, and this fell out. Not fell out, I was able to punch it out, because there'd be absolutely no way in God's green earth that I could drill out a carbide drill other than a diamond drill, but you know, these are jobs for EDM and you know, geniuses like that. Sometimes I feel so incompetent doing something like this. So that's what it looks like once I flip the drum over. Now I'm going to flip it once more and drill from that side and tap. Hope. Cross your fingers. I say a prayer. I probably shouldn't show every nightmare step, but I'm back on this side now with yet another carbide drill. And that's the last one I got, and they're probably worth 40 bucks each. Did you see that? Sure, now finally that it doesn't matter anymore, out it comes. I don't believe it. Now remember that this is a right-hand twist drill and this is a left-hand thread, so finally some of the pressure was relieved evidently, so that is what is left of the original lug that Jordan broke off 2 weeks ago. So that thread will be good. That's a left-hand thread. That thread will be good, but we might have to get another lug, left hand, if we can. I think we can. Maybe at Napa, would they have it? This is too good to be true. After all my trials and travails, I feel like Job. And this is a left-hand lug bolt, so watch this. Naturally, it's going to go left-handed, see? It's hard to remember that. So I salvaged that that hole in that thread, even though I ruined $100 worth of tools. Let's take this over to the bench and talk about what all happened here. This is amazing. I'm sure I probably said it earlier in the video, but remember there are left-hand lug bolts on the left-hand side of Randy Quaid's trailer and an R on the right side. And what was the whole problem here? Okay, let's review this now. So Jordan broke off 2 lug bolts. I drilled out and rethreaded one, and the new bolt is a hardened 9/16 course, but I have to make that little cone-shaped washer. And because of the broken off stud, and here's just a little piece of one of them, actually a bolt, I call it a stud, it's a bolt, but we proceeded to break off a big easy out. I never had much luck with them anyway, and I broke off a solid carbide drill, and then ultimately you saw this spin out, and I hope that showed up in that video. But finally, out it came. A right-hand drill twisting a left-hand threaded bolt and spinning it out. Okay, I'm going to plop the tire temporarily onto the drum. Now one other thing here needs to be addressed, and that is that the original lug bolts have to be either below or flush with the drum. And the new bolt that I put in there, of course, is not, so I want to either cut this off, but it's hard. I think it'll be easier to make some kind of spacer on the other side, and I would like it to be cone-shaped like this. So if I do that, I'm not going to show it because this video is way too long, and then I have to reinstall the drum, repack the bearings on that wheel and all that, and all of this is because he was going to buy new tires for this trip. But time is out, and he's just going to have to use these old dry rotted tires and hope that they don't give. Well, the time has finally arrived. I'm going to put the tire back on Cousin Eddie's trailer. We got a spite mower going over here. It's Saturday morning, so I'll bring that wheel. I got to mount the hub, of course, the brake shoe, and get these tires back on. I'll be working in the shade, but I won't show all of this, but it might be interesting. Eat your heart out, Cousin Eddie. Well, so long from hillbilly heaven. Maybe I'll take a few shots of this when we get down to the threshermans. Well, the old trailer made it to the thresherman's fair. Got the wheels all fixed. Well, it's time to go back home to reality. And the trailer worked just fine. Thank you, Cousin Eddie.